I was thinking about making this video and talking about review scores, and then of course the Horizon Forbidden West review scores dropped, and they are very good, sitting at an overall Metacritic score of an 89, which is really good. But of course you have those outliers, either extremely high or oddly very low, and I want to talk about that today. The idea of subjectivity, and everything is subjective. Unfortunately, we live in a time where everything is subjective to people. There is no objective good or bad. Everything can be seen as good or bad just from a point of view, which is absolutely ridiculous. There's good and bad. And with video games, there are objectively good and objectively bad video games. There has to be some standard to review them. Art style, animation, just the technical aspects of a game. Is it good? Does it play well? All of those things can be measured objectively. It's not as if we live in a world where if someone likes Crackdown 3, like I did, I can sit here and say, well, if I liked it, it's just as good technically as a Ghost of Tsushima or even a Horizon Forbidden West. It's not true. It is not a subjective matter. Objectively, Horizon Forbidden West, Ghost of Tsushima are better games than Crackdown 3. So if you're going to get upset about sites giving perfect scores, say to Halo, if those sites are named after a product created by Microsoft, I would say maybe take it back a step. And curiously, if you get upset about these really small sites that are giving really low scores to big games like Horizon Forbidden West, I'm here to tell you that they've got to compete with the big boys somehow. They don't have the access or the influence or the money like the IGNs or the Windows Central. So what do they do to get attention, to get traffic to their sites? They give big games really low review scores, or games from one platform really high review scores, all in an effort to get you to talk about them, to tweet about them, to argue about them. In the end, all you're doing is driving traffic to their site, exactly what they wanted to happen in the first place. Now, before I even played Halo Infinite's campaign, I knew going in that it couldn't possibly be a perfect game. It wasn't a 100 out of a 100, and after playing it and beating it, it isn't a perfect game. But I wasn't surprised when sites dedicated to Xbox or Microsoft gave it a perfect score. This is what happens when you're looking to the Ford dealer to get information about a Ford. You just don't go to sites like that to get objective truth. And I don't understand why people don't get that. I mean, it's obvious to me that you wouldn't get information that was accurate, to say, from a site called PlayStation Forever if you're looking for information on, say, Horizon Forbidden West or any other PlayStation exclusive. Likewise, when it comes to Xbox, clearly, if you just want confirmation bias, there are sites like that to go to get that information. But on the flip side, you have the really small sites that we talked about that have to find ways to compete with the big boys. And what do? They give really ridiculously low scores that just make absolutely no sense. And they're doing it to get a certain group of people to talk about these scores, to argue about them, to drive traffic to those sites. You see, they can't compete with the IGNs or the Windows Centrals of the world when it comes to money, influence, and reach. And the only way they can get that discussion and that traffic is to create the drama surrounding giving a ridiculously low score to something that objectively, clearly, is an extremely well put together product. There is good news, though, as no matter how many extremely high scores are given to a game based on bias, or extremely low scores are given based on that bias, the cream will always rise to the top. And Horizon Forbidden West and many other games that have been given really high or really low scores have done really well when all is said and done. So no matter how much influence some of these sites may think they have or want to have, again, in the end, the cream always rises to the top, and great games will always be great, and bad games, no matter what, will always be bad. So take a minute and think about complaining about these scores or highlighting the sites that give the scores that seem ridiculously high or ridiculously low. Think about what you're doing and what they want you to do. You're essentially being herded into the kennel. They are controlling the sheep. Don't be one of the sheep. Don't give them what they want, which is the dialogue, the arguments, the traffic, and the hits, and the retweets, and the likes. Even if you think you're highlighting negativity, what you're doing is simply driving attention to what it is they need. And it is subscribers, views, counts, likes, dislikes, even dislikes. You're giving them exactly what it is they want. So what would I suggest doing? The same thing that I've always done since console gaming began. Buying games that seem interesting to me, playing them for myself, and making the opinions that matter my own the deciding factor in whether or not a game is one that I enjoy or not. What highlights the point of this video better than anything that I can think of is that I can think of sites that will instantaneously give an Xbox game a high score or a PlayStation game a high score, and I can think of sites that will instantaneously give Xbox games low scores or PlayStation games low scores. That is the problem right there. If you can think of a site to go to hear exactly what it is you want to hear, you've got to stop and ask yourself, that's a problem. How is it that you know exactly what they're going to say before they even say it? That's the issue. It's not about objective truth. It's not about getting an accurate review or a representation of the art being created. It's about hearing what you want to hear and complaining about not hearing what you want to hear. But I love the analogy, and I keep using it, that the cream will always rise to the top, and great games will always be great, and bad games will always be bad. So at the end of the day, it really isn't worth the time or the effort to help these sites get what it is they want. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Are you excited about Horizon Forbidden West? Only a few days away. I cannot wait until Friday. I will be streaming this game, my live reaction the first time I play it, probably late Friday morning. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate hitting that like button, maybe even consider subscribing to the channel.